Up, it's time to run the numbers, and that means business today with Stephen Carroll. Hello there.
Hi, Charlie.
More bad news for the 737 MAX plane and Boeing. It's just kind of the nightmare that won't end for them, huh?
Yeah, that's true. It just seems to be more bad news after another. This time around, the plane builder says it's found debris in fuel tanks of several 737 MAX jets that were built in the past year, but not yet delivered to airlines. Now, this is the model that was grounded almost a year ago over safety concerns. The material was discovered during maintenance on parked planes. Metal shavings or other objects left in fuel tanks during assembly can increase the risk of short circuits or fires. The head of the 737 program at Boeing telling staff in an internal memo that the discovery was absolutely unacceptable. Company spokesman saying they've increased inspections as a result and that the issue wouldn't affect efforts to have regulators certify the plane to return to the skies this summer. Meanwhile, shares in Chinese airlines have risen today on reports the government is considering a bailout for the sector. Bloomberg reporting that options being considered including massive cash injection or merging smaller carriers into larger ones to prevent their collapse. The vast majority of flights in China have been cancelled due to the coronavirus outbreak. Industry research group OAG says the shutdown has reduced the size of the Chinese aviation market to the same as Portugal's. Let's take a look at how the markets are trading today. European shares trading up this lunchtime, recovering a lot of China-sensitive stocks, things like luxury groups and mining companies contributing to a rise overall across London, Paris and Frankfurt. This as investors see the number of new cases appearing to stabilise of the virus. On the currency markets, meanwhile, the euro is trading close to its lowest level against the dollar in 3 years at just under $1.08. That's partly been driven by a rise in the value of the dollar, but also some weaker economic data weighing on the euro in Europe. It's also trading for around 83 pence sterling. Here in France, talks between the government and unions are continuing over the controversial pension reforms. This as politicians examine thousands of amendments to the bill in Parliament. Opposition to the reforms led to massive transport strikes and demonstrations in December and January. One union has already quit the talks after just one day. Catherine Viette reports.
113 billion euros. That's the latest projected deficit in the retirement system by 2030, according to the French government. The unions say the timing of this announcement was planned to exert maximum pressure.
At every meeting, there's new figures, calls for reform amendments, for new measures, and now this 113 billion euros. It's the first time I'm hearing this figure.
Most have accepted the timing of the announcement and the new method of calculation. Until now, the government has just highlighted a 12 billion euro deficit in 2027 if reforms aren't undertaken.
It's important to point out that this is not a deficit for just 1 year, so it's urgent to find solutions, to find a balance.
The unions say the government is responsible for the system's growing deficit by eliminating certain social insurance contributions, like on overtime, or by lowering the employer's dues. And they've warned they won't accept a proposal that sees employees contributing more to close the gap.
Our main objective is to have measures in which the three players contribute. That's only fair. If it's simply the employees who have to pay the deficit, this will not be acceptable to us.
The pension overhaul has triggered a series of street protests and a long-running transport strike. Opponents have accused the government of not being transparent about the proposed reforms, while unions say it will result in lower pensions for some parts of the workforce.
The Indian conglomerate Reliance Industries says it's assessing new US sanctions on a Russian oil company which supplies it with Venezuelan oil. The United States has blacklisted a subsidiary of Rosneft for dealing in Venezuelan oil. The sanctions block any assets of the subsidiary that come through the United States and makes it a criminal offence to do business with them. The Trump administration is supporting Venezuela's opposition leader Juan Guaido. Reliance says that it will comply with the sanctions. Uber is shutting down its Los Angeles office and outsourcing the work to the Philippines. Around 80 jobs will go in the move, which come as the ride-hailing giant's losses have been mounting. The staff in the LA office worked on administration for drivers and users. Earlier this month, Uber reported a $1.2 billion loss for the last 3 months of 2019. Well, the film Parasite was the big success at this year's Oscars, but it's also brought good luck to a Spanish crisp manufacturer. A tin of Bonilla a la Vista potato chips appear in a scene in the movie, and it's caused a surge in demand for the product from a company that's been in business for 88 years.
An unexpected cameo has led to a surge in sales for a Spanish potato chips company.
Look, here is the tin. Look at how well you can see it. It doesn't smell like chips, but you can see it well.
Owner Cesar Bonilla had no idea his chips were in a scene from the Oscar-winning film Parasite.
It was a mystery how this movie showed this tin of Bonilla a la Vista made with so much affection and hope, and then the movie became so renowned. My hope has been fulfilled.
Bonilla says he wants to thank the director for all the publicity. It shouldn't be too surprising the chips ended up in the film. South Korea is one of Bonilla a la Vista's biggest markets, accounting for 2/3 of its exports. A 500-gram tin there costs the equivalent of 23 euros. Founded back in 1932 by Cesar's father, the family-run company produces 540 tons of chips each year, exporting to 20 countries. Thanks to its newfound fame, Cesar says online sales in Spain have jumped 150%, allowing the company to hire more staff as it ramps up production to meet the demand.
Finally, for me, Google's parent company has pulled out of a venture that aimed to build power-generating kites. Makani was one of the so-called moonshot projects that Alphabet was investing in since 2013. The company's boss, Sundar Pichai, though, is under pressure to reduce the cost of these other bets, as Google calls them, that lost the company almost $5 billion last year. Makani was developing airborne wind turbines which would fly up to 300 metres into the air, tethered to floating buoys or fixed points. In a blog post, the company's founder said that they would press ahead with efforts to develop the technology without Google's backing. Charlie.
Oh, interesting venture I'd never heard about before.
One of the many strange things Google invests in.
Yes. Thank you so much, Stephen Carroll, for bringing us that business update. I'm going to take a couple minutes and we'll be back with more news from around the world.